on my clock here. And I am recording for those of you who are joining us late. Not that it's really late, it's 2 minutes. But those of you who are joining us late, I am recording. So again, if you don't feel comfortable being part of this recorded forum, my suggestion is that you log off and watch the recording once I post it on the website tomorrow, and then pose your questions to me directly via email or phone call. So we're up to about 42 people in here. Some final thoughts before I begin the presentation. You may have better luck if you turn off your cameras. Some folks at home Wi-Fi is not quite quick enough to support this many folks trying to stream at once. So you may do well to turn off your cameras and just listen and look. Again, if you have a question, please pose it over in the chat, which is at the top right of your screen. It's an icon that looks like a speech bubble. So here in Ledyard High School Library, I have my mask down, but I do have a plexiglass shield in front of me, so I am not spit particling on the parents who are joining us here live. And so I am going to go ahead and get started pushing through some slides that I prepared to share with you, and then we'll move into a question and answer session. So I see the first question has already come up in the chat. Mr. Turner is going to be keeping track of those, and we will get to questions once I'm through the slides. So I have 13 slides. I think some of them may answer some of the questions that are on your mind, and then we'll get into those specific questions that you have. I would just ask if your question is very specific to your child, to a particular situation that relates really directly to your child, perhaps that's a conversation that you and I could have directly, either over the phone or via email, so that we are respectful of everyone's time and of your confidentiality. Okay, so I am going to present now. So I'm going to share my screen. Share. Right, this. Share. Submit. Okay. People are going to keep asking to join as we go, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to see that or not as we go. I will try. All right, so cover screen, not so exciting. Welcome to the Parent Forum. Again, thank you so much for coming. If any of you are not familiar with me and my face, I'm Amanda Fagan. I'm the principal of Ledyard High School. I have worked in buildings since 2000-2001, and I'm beginning my 9th year as principal. And I'm joined here in the Library Media Center live at the high school by a few of your fellow parents, as well as our 2 assistant principals, Bill Turner and Jim Bunipor, who will be helping me to monitor your questions on the chat. Right. Come on now. Okay, what just happened? I'm really good at this game. Okay, so from the beginning. Go, resume slideshow. Okay, I'm not sure why it doesn't want to cooperate with me. Here we go. Okay, so next slide. It's weird that you're seeing that. Like, are you seeing the 2 slides together? It's not a great view. It's not a great view for you. Let's see. There we go. That's better. That's better. Okay, good. Okay, so what you're seeing here is a screenshot of the document that was released June 29th by the Connecticut State Department of Education. This is their initial framework. It's called Adapt, Advance, and Achieve. And this is the document that was released out to all of the 169 public school districts in the state. And this is the framework that all districts, including Ledyard Public Schools, are following as we shape our own thinking for a safe restart for our kiddos and our staff. Within this plan, the Adapt, Advance, and Achieve plan, there are requirements and there is guidance. So the requirements obviously are the non-negotiables. To open schools safely for staff and students, you must fulfill the requirements within this plan. The guidance are, as the name suggests, things that they think we ought to be doing, but that they recognize at the state level schools may be in different positions to effectively fulfill. So those requirements are sorted into 7 priorities. So there's, and I know these first couple slides seem super dry. I promise I'm not going to walk you through every iota of this gigantically lengthy plan. Just giving you an overview of the structure. So the priorities are the operational model, equity, cohorts, facilities, transportation, health and safety, and finally monitoring, containment, and the class cancellation plan. So that's sort of the broad overview of the way the state structured their plan. So the operational model is the place where I want to begin. And that from the state indicates that each district must prepare 3 plans. So I have had questions via email from a number of parents who have said, oh, I heard we're going hybrid. I heard that you want to do homeschooling. I heard you're opening full. There has been no decision made, not at the local level and not at the state level at this time. Every district in the state has been tasked with the requirement of creating 3 operational models. So the first model is this, the full opening. So school would open full time to all staff and students. All students would attend school in person 5 days a week for instruction. We would have in place extensive safety precautions, including social distancing and mask requirements. At the other end of the spectrum is full virtual learning or distance learning or remote learning. Choose your vocabulary on that one. The full virtual model, the building is closed. Students and staff all work from home and instruction is delivered digitally through Google Classroom. And that would include a model similar to, but even better than the spring. So we'd have some videos, both live and pre-recorded. Of course, students would expect to be completing readings, doing practice sets, completing assignments, maybe working on some digital platforms, Khan Academy, Lexia for reading, Edpuzzle, some of the things that folks saw in the spring as well. The happy medium, if you will, is the hybrid plan. The hybrid plan is that the school building is open and the staff is in the building 5 days a week, but the students are divided into 2 cohorts, roughly A through K and L through Z, and I'll explain some of the exceptions to that in a bit. And each cohort attends in person 2 days a week and from home 3 days a week. And I'm going to get into that in a little more detail a little bit later in the presentation. So again, the state's plan, Adapt, Advance, Achieve, requires that all districts fully develop all 3 of these models. So Ledyard Public Schools, for all 4 of the school buildings, is working on a plan for a full opening, for a full at-home learning, and for a hybrid. So I want to start with some of the overarching things that would apply to all of those. The first is an adjustment to the 4x4 block schedule. So this is a piece that I know seems a little confusing to folks. What on earth is the 4x4? So the 4x4 block schedule is very similar to the schedule we have now in terms of structure. Students would still have 4 84-minute blocks a day. So it's exactly the same as the AB in that sense. And the 4x4 is actually the schedule that we were on at Ledyard High School from 1999 through 2012. So we were actually on that schedule for longer than we've been on the AB schedule. So the 4x4, if you want to think of it a little bit like a college schedule. So students have courses for a semester, full credit courses every day for a semester, and the course is complete at midterm. So for us, that falls right in mid-January, typically right around the Martin Luther King weekend. And they get a new set of 4 classes for second semester. I say 4 classes. It's possible a student could have 4 classes, 4 full credit classes. They might have 3 full credit classes in a study hall. They could have more than 4 classes because our half credit electives will continue to meet every other day for a semester. So half as many meetings as a full credit course. So what you're looking at on the screen is an example of what a typical freshman's 4x4 block schedule might look like. So for semester 1, every day block, they'd have English. On the A day, they would have PE. On the B day, drawing. Block 3, they'd have world history every single day. Block 4, on the A day, they might have, say, study and organization. On the B day, Colonel Singers. So our electives are every other day, so they fit with each other like puzzle pieces in the schedule. After midterms, which would actually be finals in this case, for spring semester, this student would switch and have biology, algebra, and then alternating woods and study and organization, and creative writing and kernel singers. This is a strictly invented schedule. I made it up. This is nobody's kid. I'm not sacrificing anyone's confidentiality, but just what a typical freshman schedule might look like. Another way of looking at it, maybe this is easier for some folks. So the blue blocks are semester 1 schedule. So it's the same schedule I just showed you, just a slightly different way of looking at it. So on the A day, English, PE, World History, Study and Org. On the B day, English, Drawing, World History, Kernel Singers. Now, there are some exceptions to the rule of full credit courses meet every day for a semester. The exceptions are, number 1, AP classes. So advanced placement classes are driven by a curriculum that comes from outside Ledyard High School, the National College Board driven curriculum. And those courses are leading to a test, a nationally standardized test that takes place in early May. Our AP courses in a 4x4 block schedule would meet every other day all year. Does this mess up a kid's schedule? No, because all of our half credit electives also meet every other day. So perhaps a student has AP statistics every other block A all year, and maybe first semester on the opposite, they might have advanced PE. And in the second semester, they might have ceramics, opposite in the other day of statistics. We've done some work too to pair up our AP courses where they have similar cohorts. So for example, AP Statistics, AP Psychology, and AP English are strictly, for the most part, enrolled by seniors. There are some juniors in AP Psych, but Statistics, English, and mostly Psych are all seniors. So if there's multiple sections of those, we've put them back to back. So a student who's in both AP Statistics and AP English might alternate those during block 1. So 1A is Statistics, 1B is English for the whole year. So they always know I've got this AP class first block. It just switches every day. Another exception to the rule are our performance ensemble courses. So all of our choirs and all of our bands would again meet every other day all year. That's obviously because you're looking to create continuity of instruction, development of skill, combining of the ensemble, and theoretically preparation for concerts throughout the year. I know many folks have questions about what our music classes, specifically our performance classes, will look like this year. And they may indeed look very different than what we're used to. And we'll talk about that a little bit as we get into this as well. So one of the overarching changes we made was to move from an AB to a 4x4. Why? If it's a schedule that we used to have and we went away from it, why would we go back to it now? We're going back to it now because it simplifies the management for students, families, and teachers. It minimizes the cohorts that students are exposed to and that staff are exposed to. So in an AB schedule, let's take it from the teacher perspective, a teacher teaches 6 sections of class. 6 sets of, God bless them, dreamy little kids every day. In the 4x4, they teach 3. Let's look at it from the student perspective. In an AB schedule, a student is balancing as many as 8 different courses and 8 different cohorts of their germy little friends. So moving this to a 4x4 minimizes the number of students with whom each of our students is in contact on a given day, which then transfers back to the home, minimizes the number of contacts if we're doing contact tracing back into each home. Additionally, one of the concerns that was voiced by some parents and students in the spring was that although we only had 4 classes a day, it was challenging to manage 8 classes overall from home and 8 different Google Classrooms, even as teachers worked to try to be more consistent in the way they were posting things and aligning to one another. It's a lot on the home end of things to be balancing those 8 different pieces. So moving to a 4x4, anticipating the possibility that we may have to look at a full closure at some point, depending on what route the virus takes, moving to a 4x4 minimizes cohorts and maximizes students' ability to manage their classes in their Google Classrooms. In terms of how does a 4x4 impact athletic eligibility, so I know some of our athletes were concerned because in the AB schedule, you have to be passing 4 credits to be academically eligible for athletics. In the 4x4 schedule, you have to be passing 2 credits to be eligible for athletics. And that is not our standard. That's a standard dictated by the CIAC, the Connecticut Interscholastic Athletic Conference. And the 4x4 block schedule is not unusual statewide. Prior to the pandemic, it was used semi-locally by Valley Regional and by Woodstock Academy. As we enter the pandemic, a number of local high schools like we are moving into the 4x4 just for this year. And I want to be clear that this is not a permanent change. It is directly a response to the pandemic. Another overarching organizational piece that we have put into place is that we've added 2 additional lunch waves. So we used to have only 2 lunch waves, one at the start and one at the end of block 3. We now will have 4 lunch waves, all of them contained within block 3. Each of these lunch waves will continue. They will all be 25 minutes long as they were previously, and they'll also have a passing period back to class. Essentially, the lunch waves are broken out by hallway, and they follow the numbers. Lunch 1 is the 100s, lunch 2 is the 200s, lunch 3 is the 300s, lunch 4 is the 400s. So if we were in a full opening situation, and as a pause, I recognize there's some outliers there. I didn't say music, PE, shops, agri-science. They are assigned to specific lunch waves as well. If we were in a full opening situation, we would be looking at each lunch wave being populated by just shy of 200 students. So in our cafeteria, we could effectively distance 200 students. If we're in a hybrid model, each lunch wave would be populated by just shy of 100 students, which is even easier, obviously, to socially distance than 200. In addition, our cafeteria offerings will shift. So you can see in the pictures over to the side there that those offerings are more grab and go, if you will. So rather than waiting in line and arduously picking which cold cuts they want on their sandwich or which things they want in their stir fry, it'll be fresh made that day, but grab and go, easily packaged and right out of the line. We will also have floor markings so that students know where to stand to wait. And we, the adults, will be monitoring how many kids go into the food service area at a time. So instead of everyone in lunch 1 just kind of streaming in and grabbing their food, we'll just make sure we need to take a look at the space, see what's the reasonable capacity, and say we might let 8 kids in at a time. Grab your salad, your wrap, your sandwich, your yogurt, whatever it is that you're grabbing. And as students leave the checkout, we'll be simultaneously sending more kids into the lunch wave. So those 4 lunch waves help us to balance the traffic. In addition, which I'll talk about in a minute, but we have one-way traffic patterns in the building. So the lunch 1, for example, of the 100s, they'll be heading up the main hallway and down the 100s to lunch. They will never pass the lunch 2 kids. The lunch 2 kids will be coming across the upstairs and down the music hallway and up the front. So there's no passing traffic that will happen during the lunch wave. So that's another structural piece we've put in that would apply to all operational models. Yeah. Oh, okay. Checking for new people. Hold, pause, hold the phone. We've got some. Good job, Mr. Turner. Okay. Hi, everyone. That was it, 2. They might have given up on us. Okay. It's really gritty over here. Yeah, I don't know. Mrs. Granger, good job. If you see more people that need to get in, tell us in the chat. That goes to all of you. Good job. Tell us in the chat. All right, these display settings are the worst. Okay. So other adjustments for safety. So other changes that we've made to the operational model, which would again apply to the full opening and the hybrid opening. So anything that involves students and staff in our building, these are some of the things that we've done. One, the main 2-story portion of the building will follow a one-way traffic pattern, and stairwells will be designated as up or down only. So not sure how familiar all of you are with our building. If you were looking at it from the bird's eye view, it's sort of like the Big Dipper. So it's the 2-story square with an arm that comes off of it down to PE, shops, and agri-science. There is no way to make the PE, shops, and agri-science, there's no way to make that one way. The kids would be trapped in agri-science forever. I mean, which there are worse things, I suppose. So what we'll do during passing periods is we will actually release agri-science, PE, and shops just a touch early, a minute and a half maybe early before everyone else, to get them into the main traffic pattern of the square, so that once we release the square, the kids that need to go down the gym, shops, and ag hallway won't have anyone left to pass. So all those kids will already be out, theoretically. The back of the building and the front of the building, there's 2 stairwells in the back and 2 in the front. One will be an up and one will be a down. Obviously, this is going to be an adjustment for students, so we will be doing a bit of training and orienting for them as well. We'll be filming maybe some really cool videos for you. I'll put cool in air quotes. Other overarching adjustments, we have reduced the maximum capacity in some of our specialty courses, such as the art classes, where the setup in there is 4 large tables. Previously, the cap in those classes was 22. Real challenging to socially distance on 4 tables with 22 kids. We've dropped that cap way down to 16. Similarly, in the business classroom, which is all computer-based, we've dropped that cap a bit as well. The computers make a frame around the room, so there's an ability to socially distance if we can just drop the number a little bit. We also dropped the numbers in our family and consumer science courses, which that would be culinary, sewing, interior design. Again, those decisions were made in order to make it possible to social distance in those classrooms. So, but naturally, anytime you reduce the enrollment cap in classes, it means you're reducing the opportunity for students to get into those classes. So that's a bummer. It's really disappointing because I know kids already have schedules in hand from the end of the school year when we believe we'd be able to open normally on an A-B schedule. They will be getting new schedules for a 4x4 schedule, and they may not get into all the same classes they initially had on that A-B schedule. It's very disappointing, and I apologize for that, but I think overall trying to work to ensure the safety of kids is more important than making sure every single kid gets into culinary. So we did reduce those enrollment caps in some courses. And then in courses that have traditional seating, specifically desks rather than lab tables or art tables, all desks are being arranged so that all students face in the same direction. That was a requirement of the plan. So many of our teachers favor a horseshoe setting or like a double arch setting, which makes discussion and communication a little easier, particularly in a language class. Some teachers have their desks in pods, 4 or 3 desks that are together as a table. For now, to open school, everyone will be in rows facing in the same direction. Okay, so study halls. So typically, it's been a senior privilege that seniors who had Block 1 study hall could come to school late, and who had Block 4 Block 4 study hall could leave school early with parental permission, of course. We're going to extend that privilege to our driving juniors, again, with parental permission. This is going to just remove bodies from the school and let kids, head home and finish up their day or come late and begin their day a little later. We will entertain requests from underclassmen parents, and why that's not a blanket approval that everyone who has a ride could come late or leave early is, let's just say hypothetically, this seems like a really high number, so that's why it's just hypothetical. Let's say I had 85 kids who had Block 4 study hall. I cannot have 85 kids lingering in the front lobby waiting for their ride. So that's why I'm saying juniors and seniors who can go to their car and leave, great. If we have some sophomores, freshmen, or juniors and seniors who don't yet drive, whose parents want to pick them up, we may be able to make an arrangement, but I can't just blanket approve them because we need to be sure that we can have everyone spaced as they're waiting for their rides. Other things that we've done, we will be closing the restrooms before school and during passing periods. So now before school, of course, is, if there's emergencies, yes, we're going to make exceptions to the rule. But what won't be happening is that, 15 girls with flat irons and makeup bags hang out in the 100 bathroom for 20 minutes before school because they arrive on an early bus. We're minimizing gathering. So we'll be closing our restrooms before school except for emergency or limited numbers of students. And they won't be open during the passing periods. So students will be leaving from class to go to the lab. And that, again, is just It's really difficult to supervise during the passing period how many students might be in there at once, who's taking a mask break, who is making a bad choice, who's coughing on everyone. So we're going to try to minimize the occupancy of the bathrooms as we go. In the morning, our buses, so previously buses all dropped right at the front door, and all of our students waited in the cafeteria until 7:30. That's not a viable option for this year. So in the morning, our buses will drop students at 2 entrances. So to the main entrance, as always, but also to this forward library and auditorium entrance. And students will go to 4 holding places. So the front drop-off will come some to the library, some to the auditorium. And the main door drop-off will go some to the cafeteria, some to the gymnasium. We are well aware of our obligation to provide lunch or breakfast rather to students. And so for folks who need to pick up breakfast in the morning, we'll absolutely make arrangements for that to be possible, including potentially having breakfast kiosks down at this end of the building so that we don't have to have everyone trolling through the cafeteria to get breakfast and then come here. It kind of defeats the purpose of the separation. In the afternoons, we plan to dismiss by hallway to minimize crowding on the bus platform. We'll actually start with our out-of-district kids because those buses leave, oh my gosh, like they're on fire. They leave so fast. So we'll release our out-of-district students first and then by hallway. I say we plan to because we really need to see what it looks like, how long it takes, how well the kids do with getting straight to the buses. And we may not have to be as deliberate and slow with that. We'll have to just play it by ear as it begins. But our intention is to release by hallway, certainly for the first couple of weeks, to make sure we can minimize those crowdings in the stairwells and on the bus platform itself. And finally, so there'll be no visitors. That feels like a really unwelcoming message, and we love you. But to help control contact and reduce the spread of germs, we're not going to be allowing visitors, and we will not facilitate the delivery of forgotten items. So we love that you made fresh tamales for Spanish class, or we're sorry that your child forgot his soccer cleats, but it's going to be the kids' responsibility to bring things in first thing in the morning on their own without depending upon you to drop off Subway, tamales, soccer cleats, lunch money, etc. There's a little asterisk next to visitors because certainly parents who are invited to attend a planning and placement team meeting or a 504 meeting or who have been invited by the administration to attend for a particular reason will be granted entrance into the building, and we will have a screening process for those folks to help us facilitate contact tracing if we need to. But otherwise, we will not be having the running in and out and the dropping off of goods. And we don't mean to sound unwelcoming, but it's just one more way to control the number of folks in the building and the number of contacts that our students and staff have. I just want to dip out and check one more time to see if anyone's waiting.
One person.
Oh, come on, Robin Loy. Nope, we got 2. 3, 4. Okay, good job, people. Welcome. Okay, so I'm going back to the presentation. Oh my gosh, okay. So, yep, we went through all those. All right, moving on. Additional considerations. Shared materials. This is another piece that's covered in the plan. So we will be looking to avoid sharing materials as much as possible. So I said there not so much. In places where we cannot avoid sharing, we'll have our students wearing gloves. These are latex-free gloves. They will be purchased at the district. Families are not expected to provide gloves for their students. In other courses where, so let's take ceramics as an example. You can't really wear ceramics, or well, you can't wear ceramics, but you also can't wear gloves in ceramics. The gloves stick, it doesn't work. So students will have to be using their bare hands to work with the clay, obviously, and to work with the tools that they need to work with the clay. So in a course like that, we'll be using other ways to sanitize the material. So obviously sprays, wipes, we have sanitizing tablets that we use in our culinary courses already. There's already a really high level of cleanliness in there. So we have sort of some different game plans for different areas, but a lot of them will be wearing gloves. This applies to tech ed, to agri-science, to family and consumer science, to art, even potentially to the music courses like guitar and keyboarding. They will use gloves. Which that's one of those ones we'll need to experiment with. We may have to use cleansing wipes after the fact if the gloves make it too difficult for students to access their instruments. PE courses will likely look different as well for that same reason. It's unlikely that we would, set up all of the badminton nets and have everyone handling badminton rackets and badminton birdies. We'll be looking at some different types of health and fitness units that don't necessarily require all sorts of individual materials. Think of things like yoga, Pilates, geocaching, some other ones that I'm sure Mr. Bunicor could fill in if folks have questions. But the bottom line is we're looking for creative and still effective instructional ways to avoid sharing materials. It's also not just about wearing gloves and cleaning well. We're also just purchasing more materials so that in certain places, students can all have access to their own thing X, whatever that thing might be. So whether it's a 4-function calculator in a mathematics class, or whether it's a particular cutting tool that they might use in a ceramics class, we're obviously proactively planning our purchases this summer, or have already proactively planned our purchases to get around that material sharing piece. An additional consideration revolves around choir and band. So I mentioned this already. We've not made any final decisions about what our performance ensembles will look like. We're certainly aware of the potential risks of airborne droplets. We know that singing produces airborne droplets. We know that playing a wind instrument produces a lot of airborne droplets. There are a number of studies going on nationally, and as you might imagine, Mr. Thomas and Mrs. Cometa are avidly keeping track of them and communicating with both their local and their national professional organizations to kind of stay on top of it. But it is possible that we're going to have to make significant alterations to the look of our choirs and bands to start the year. Not just how we run those classes, but also how the fall concert and performance season may look. Again, we've not made final decisions. We recognize what a valuable part of education our music program is for so many of our kids, and we don't want to make a decision rashly. We want to have as much information as we can so that we're keeping kids safe and also preserving as much as we can of the things that they love most. Right, so that's that. So that's sort of the finish of the broad overview of all of the things that will apply to all of our different models. I want to switch now from the full opening model to the opposite, to the full virtual model. What you're looking at with this 2-column image here is a comparison between synchronous and asynchronous learning. These are the fantastic educational buzzwords of the year. So synchronous, think about like synchronize your watch. It's about time. So synchronous is learning that's delivered in a specific place at a specific time to all students. So synchronous learning is time bound. You're following a very specific schedule. Asynchronous learning is provided to students and they can access it when they choose. Benefit of synchronous learning is immediate feedback and interaction with your teacher and your peers. Benefit of asynchronous learning is self-pacing and choice. A drawback for synchronous is that it's inflexible. The class meets when it meets and the teacher is available when they're available and you need to be there. But a drawback to asynchronous is that, yes, you have choice and self-pacing, but you also have to have self-discipline and organization and time management skills. And you can end up feeling isolated because you're not getting the benefit of those interactions with your classmates. The last bit there, I don't know that I really need to review how to implement it, but I wanted to kind of talk about synchronous and asynchronous because it relates to the shift that we will look at as we move, if we have to move into a full virtual model. We would be wanting to add more synchronous elements this fall than existed in the spring. So in the spring, there certainly were live elements. There were some teachers more than others who did, live Google Meets and who had sort of more live instruction or videos of instruction. But we also had many students, I don't know many, but certainly some students who got a job or who, started going to work with my mom. She does landscaping and I'm working with my mom full time. So I don't even start my work until 6 o'clock. Which it's wonderful. Families had some choices, but school is school. Students are required by law to attend school. If we have to push into a more virtual model this year, and the hybrid is included in that blanket statement, we will be looking at a more synchronous model. So we will be looking at a schedule that more closely follows the school day, that students have to interact and check in directly with their teacher and potentially classmates in breakout meets or Zooms. So it's going to be, so synchronous, think synchronize. It's going to be more linked up to the actual schedule. They will follow their schedule more as the day progresses. What will be similar to what we've already seen in the spring if we have to go to a virtual model is that Google Classroom will remain the vehicle for organization and delivery of instruction. We are doing some really good work in the first 6 days before we get kids in the beginning of the year to be sure that teachers are really all on the same page with how we're using it, how we're labeling assignments, how we're matching assignments in Google Classroom to the way they're reported in PowerSchool, so that you can make sure you know what you're looking at across the two platforms. But Google Classroom will continue to be that main vehicle. We will be looking at more live instruction or / teacher-made videos. That will be a little bit more of the norm. To be clear, I'm not talking about students are going to log in and they're going to watch their teacher for 84 minutes. That's not what I'm talking about. But they are going to log in and their teacher might give them a 20-minute intro lesson and then explain the directions and push them out to do some work and then check back in with them at the end. We're not talking about 84-minute lectures. In the same way that technology and technology speed can be an issue for our families and students, it can be an issue for our staff members as well. So not every single one of our staff members has the Wi-Fi capacity at home to do live instruction because of the delay. So for some of those folks, the teacher-made video might be the norm, and the opportunity to chat via email, Google Chat, or just the chat function within Google Meet might be the option. So it might not be a stand and deliver lesson, it might be a pre-recorded stand and deliver lesson. But again, syncing up more with the day or the schedule, more live instruction and seeing the faces of your teachers and classmates. And then the 4x4 block schedule is just, it's easier to manage. So they're not managing as many classes, they're not juggling the expectations of as many teachers that the students are talking about. So that full virtual model will be Google-based, more synchronous. Of course, there will be exceptions, but more synchronous, more live instruction, I think easier for kiddos to manage. Let's talk about the hybrid now. So the hybrid is the marriage of this two that we've just talked about. So the push regionally is to have a very common approach so that all of our schools and students are kind of on a similar experience here. Certainly around the region and in our district, there are many teachers who are also parents of students in other districts. And so that the hybrid is tricky for everyone. But it's an interesting model. So basically how it would look. So you see Monday and Tuesday, so that'd be an A day and a B day. And cohort A would be attending school in person, hopping on the bus or in the car, coming to school and doing their regular schedule and heading home. Cohort B would still be participating in a full day of school. They would be doing similar work, same stuff, getting their assignments through Google Classroom, but they'd be home. Wednesday, everyone would be remote. We would have our advisory on Wednesday, like we always do, where we'll have the opportunity to really focus a little more at the start of this year on social emotional well-being, on self-care, on mental health. And then Thursday, Friday, it would swap. So cohort A would stay home and cohort B would come to school in person. So everyone would have 4 days of new learning in their content areas and 1 day of extra help, intervention, makeup, office hours, and advisory. I said before that we're tentatively saying A through K and L through Z as the potential cohorts. Those are sort of generalizations about numbers in the district. We have a few different things to consider at the high school. One is our sending towns. So we have students who attend Ledyard High School from 12 different towns, and we would keep the towns together. So let's just say it's Groton. Groton would be cohort A, no matter where their name falls in the alphabet. So we want to be good neighbors with our surrounding towns so that they're only sending their buses on those 2 days. Also, we have some blended families where we have single households who have children with different last names who may fall in separate cohorts. If the families request, we would obviously put those kiddos in the same cohort. Other places where exceptions might be made is just that It's A through K is unlikely to be the exact middle for all 4 grades. So it may well end up at the high school level that we say the freshmen are really A through M, and the sophomores are A through K, and the juniors are A through K, and the seniors are A through D. They're really front heavy. But we'll want to look and make those cohorts as even as possible once we've shuffled our sending towns and our families, and then we'll figure out where that breakdown is. So roughly A through K, L through Z, but just want to be clear that that may not be exactly the way it falls if we go to this model. What's the advantage of the hybrid? So the smaller cohorts obviously allow for improved social distancing. So it's a reduction for students and teachers alike on the duration and quantity of potential exposure. So folks who've been reading lots of articles about how COVID-19 is transmitted know that it's about sort of time and amount of exposure. So the smaller cohorts help with that. They also allow for more individual attention from the teachers. It's important that people understand that social distancing is going to change the way that we deliver in-person instruction as well. You're not going to have your teacher bent over your desk with leaning over your shoulder helping you out. You're not going to turn and talk and have partner work on a lab. You're not going to be in your pod of 4 students working together through a problem yet. Hopefully we get to that point. Hopefully the virus takes the correct turn and we get to that point later in the year. But to start in the fall, it's going to be a little more structured, a little less, warm and fuzzy personal. So having those smaller cohorts lets more individual attention on each individual student in a time when instruction looks a little different, and some students may need that extra help. And finally, just having an opportunity to attend in person, not going to a full at-home model, but for students to just know and have that hope in their head, look, I'm going to school Thursday and Friday, that's gonna be good. I'm gonna see my friends, see that awesome teacher I love. I'm gonna get to do this thing that I like to do, where I order this turkey sandwich, fill it up with barbecue sauce, that's gonna be so great. It just helps with the social emotional needs and the isolation and frustration that some folks felt when we were completely home. So that's sort of the overview of the 3 models. So again, all those overarching things about the one-way traffic and the up-down stairwells and the morning routine with the 4 holding areas and the restrooms, that applies to the hybrid model as well. The 4x4 schedule obviously applies to the at-home model as well. So all of these are sort of intermarried. Again, at this time, there has been no decision made at the local or state level of how we will open, but these are the options of what that opening could look like. Nobody's waiting. Okay, love it. And I almost said from the beginning. From current. All right, so back to this guy. Did that. So mitigation strategies, just is sort of a summary of some of the things that we've talked about. So we've got the virus, all of our districts, because of this plan from the state, we have sort of 5 mitigation strategies. So we have hand washing, it's one part of the puzzle. We have cleaning and sanitizing of our spaces, that's another piece of the puzzle. We have social distancing, another piece of the puzzle. We have wearing masks, another piece of our puzzle. Cohorts, another piece of our puzzle. Cohort is a big buzzword that's been floating around the educational world. And the plan from the state acknowledges that cohorting in grades 9 through 12 is not especially feasible. What cohorting means is that you travel with the same group of kids all day long. So at the elementary level, for example, you could have a class of 3rd graders who stay completely together in their own room all day. And their art teacher comes to them, or their music teacher comes to them, lunch comes to them. It's very easy to do that at the elementary level. Significantly less easy to do that at the high school level. And so, but if you take away cohorts, you can see that our coronavirus is still covered with our other mitigation strategies. So moving to the 4x4 is one way that we're trying to manage cohorts, using the 4 different storage areas. Terrible phrasing. 4 different waiting areas in the morning is another way we're trying to reduce our cohorts. We're trying to reduce those contacts. Having students come late or leave early if they have study hall, another way we're trying to reduce those contacts. So we know we do not have true cohorts, and we will not have true cohorts, but we're taking this we can to try to minimize unnecessary contact as much as possible. A few other things that folks are wondering about. I'm sure that some of you are wondering about what are the cleaning and sanitizing procedures. So this text that's on this screen is actually, I just copy and pasted it. It's part of the protocol that is in the Ledger Public Schools Return to School Plan, which you got linked to you from an email from Mr. Hart, superintendent, and it is on the website. If I found this, just because it's a very cumbersome document, I understand. I just went Control F for find and put cleaning, and I got to this. So it's a link that's a little bit longer than this, but I know folks were concerned about high touch surfaces, for example. We'll be adjusting the way our custodians are assigned to the building. So Ledyard High School, for example, usually only has one day custodian, but we have 5 or 6 evening custodians. So some of those evening custodians may work split shifts where they come in and work the last 4 hours, say, and I'm making up numbers, but say they work the last 4 hours of the day shift and the first 4 hours of the evening shift. And so they can assist with managing and cleaning those high touch surfaces. The evening custodians, once the building is clear in the afternoon, will be disinfecting all of our hard surfaces nightly. There's a list here of some of the products that we'll be using, and that list came from our Director of Facilities, Wayne Donaldson. And some of those products have a dwell time, meaning how long they need to stay on the surface to be effective. And typically, you don't wipe them off. You clean all the surfaces with your normal sprays, and then you spray the disinfecting spray and you leave it, and it needs to dwell for 10 minutes, or in one case here, 5 minutes. So during the day, we'll be using wipes. So we have, holy cow, a boatload of wipes that are coming to us. Actually, some of them are already here. I don't know where we're going to put them. But these are wipes that are safe for hands, but also for surfaces. So the protocol when students enter the room. So when you come in the school first thing in the morning, the school is clean and sanitized. It was cleaned and sanitized by the custodians the night before. Every hard surface has been cleaned, and the sanitizers have been allowed to dwell in their appropriate amount of time. When you enter a classroom, you will hand sanitize. We got some big old gallon pumps of hand sanitizer. You will grab your wipe. You will wipe down your desk surface, and you will toss your wipe in a garbage can. And so that's sort of the protocol for every kid, every class, so they know when they arrive, my hands are germ-free, my space is germ-free, I'm sitting in a clean desk because I just wiped it down with this trusty little wipe. So it doesn't matter if every desk doesn't get wiped every block. Like, oh, what if somebody sat there first block but not second block? Nobody's sitting there. When somebody sits there, they'll wipe that desk down and it'll be good. And if nobody sits there for the whole rest of the day, the custodians will sanitize that one in the evening, as they do all of them. So there's more information about that cleaning protocol in the document. Just wanted to give you a little bit of a look at some of the things that we're thinking about specifically here. Oh, my mouse is not cooperating with me. So another question that has come up is, what are the thresholds? When do you decide to close school? What happens if there's a positive test? What if a teacher gets sick? What if a student gets sick? What if a student's parent gets sick at home? What does the student have to do? Those are all really good questions. I'm not being glib when I tell you I'm not an epidemiologist. I will not be making those decisions. The state just released, I just got it in my hands today, actually, Addendum 4. And Addendum 4 is influenced by the Harvard Global Health Institute. So this is the Harvard, oh, you can't even see because I'm sharing my screen. The Harvard Global Health Institute has released a 4-page document about what are the threshold measures for closing schools, for quarantining particular individuals, for going to a hybrid, for going back to full. It's a super interesting document. It does give some good specific numbers in it. It also references other considerations to be made. So it's not necessarily just about how many cases in Connecticut or how many cases in New London County. At the building level, it's about the design of your physical space. It's about cohorting, compliance with self-screening, the capabilities of your HVAC system, and your capabilities around cleaning and disinfection. So this is actually really exciting news because to this point, schools in Connecticut did not have any guidance yet from the Department of Public Health, from the Connecticut State Department of Education, from the local health districts about how and when to make decisions. We finally we're getting there. I wouldn't say that this is done, but the state is at least acknowledging that they need to put out a metric for districts' use, and they are modeling it off the Harvard Global Health Institute metric. Final thing to address, again, another one that I fielded a few questions about via email, relates to fall sports. So fall sports will follow the explicit guidance of the CIAC, which is the Connecticut Interscholastic Athletic Conference. That's the governing body of high school sports in Connecticut. Mr. Bunicor, our athletic director and assistant principal, has been on, I feel like, conservatively 65 calls with the CIAC this summer. They seem to be perpetually discussing, planning, looking at numbers, analyzing safety. Some of you who are parents of athletes know that we have been slowly phasing through a process here at the high school. From June 1st, right, we were able to virtually train. That was phase one. We moved into a phase two a little more recently, which was to be in-person training in small cohorts with a self-screening process that was involved in that. And we have good reason to believe the state is pushing to phase three real soon, hopefully, and to make some announcements about what the fall season may look like. I know a lot of folks are perplexed by, why are colleges canceling their sports seasons and the pros are still playing, or why, if NHL, National Hockey League, had 0 positives, why does baseball have 95 positives? If baseball, professional baseball players can't stay healthy, how do we expect high school players to stay healthy? We are posing all those questions too. We're pursuing all those answers as well. At the high school level, at Ledyard High School, we are following all kinds of safety protocols, and we're looking forward to more guidance from the CIAC to be able to let our students have something of a fall season this year. I can tell you another part of it is that the season will probably look a little different in terms of timing and opponents. So more likely we will play a local competitive schedule. So you won't see those games against schools from, New Haven, schools from Norwalk. Not that we play Norwalk, but it would be a more local, really ECC, New London County based schedule. Up to and including the CIAC is still discussing what they're going to do with state tournaments specifically to control that contact across and around the state. So at this time, things are going well with sports, continuing to progress forward, and Family ID opens on Monday. All right, so at long last, 55 minutes, Fagan. Gosh, people don't like to hear you talk. All right, I'm going to stop presenting, maybe. Stop sharing. Okay, so we have a few comments over in the chat. Okay, great, good question, thank you. When is the 4x4 being sent out? Gosh, yeah, it's before school starts. So it's an unbelievably complicated process. We actually did what we think is our final run of students through the master schedule today, which is a good thing. That doesn't mean schedules are ready to send. That means that we are at as strong of a point as we can be for where each class falls in the schedule. For individual students, there are conflicts. So the next task, excuse me, is for the guidance counselors to take the students on their caseload and start looking through schedules to see who has major conflicts that really need to be worked on and who just, we're having a hard time getting you into ceramics. Would you like creative writing? Some simple half credit swaps. The guidance counselors return to work 5 days before everyone else. So they return to work the week of August 17th. So that's the bulk of their work that week. And I know it's stressful. Folks are like, oh my gosh, I really want to see that schedule. Believe me, we truly are working as fast as we can. It's just a really, really complex process. So the week of 8/17, guidance counselors will start cranking out corrections to schedules, and you'll likely be getting some phone calls from folks looking for some preferences or ideas. And we hope to get those schedules mailed out the end of the week of 8/17 and maybe, unfortunately, even into the 20s. It's so much later than we'd like. We're pushing hard, but they are coming. They are coming. Gotcha. Okay, great. Question 2 about recording. So we are recording, and so I'd like to post it on our website, the lhs.ledger.net. I believe that Mr. Partling also intends to post all of the forums from a main link on the district website, which is just ledger.net. So you can find them on our website. I don't know, it sounds like you guys talking a lot. Let's see. Distance learning 4x4, parents are coming in. Oh yeah, gotcha. Okay. Yes, gotcha. Thank you, Mari Stefan. Good question. If a student starts remotely and then chooses to attend in person, can that happen at any point? So what we are asking, what we're requesting is that students and families who temporarily opt out of in-person education, which means right from the get-go, you're choosing to follow your schedule, but to do it from home. So all of your work will be through Google Classroom. We're asking that you hang in there until the quarter ends, which is right at the end of October. You don't have to wait till the semester change. It would be okay to come in kind of at the end of the quarter. And I mean, frankly, we'll work with families independently. If there's a particular reason, if the virus takes a great turn, if you realize, man, this isn't working, my child really needs to be in front of their teacher more, talk to us and we'll work through it. We're asking folks to wait and change back at the quarter or the semester, but we will certainly work with it on an individual basis. First day of school has changed. Right now, students return on, well, I'm saying right now, but this is legit, like this is done. Students return on Tuesday, September 1st. So Tuesday, September 1st is the first day for students. Teachers will return the Monday before that. So teachers will have 6 full days of training and PD and work and rearranging of classrooms before we see students on Tuesday the 1st. If a student does remote learning, they may not participate in any extracurriculars. Presumably the reason for doing remote learning is because of a fear of contact with the virus. And so coming into a whole different cohort of students after school, whether that's for play practice or carolers rehearsal or soccer practice or a track or a cross-country meet, no. So if folks temporarily opt out and do the schooling at home, they are not eligible for extracurriculars in general, not just sports, but nothing. Will there be a visit scheduled for new students coming in? So that's a good question. We still have freshman orientation on our calendar for Wednesday, August, I don't know, 18th or 19th. I'm not sure off the top of my head. The Wednesday before school starts. We're not sure if we're going to be able to make that happen. I have some ideas about how I would like the first week to look with my new students, and so stay tuned. So we do have 5 well videos on our website, lhs.ledger.net, that were meant to try to help orient the freshmen and their families a little bit. I know it's not the same as being in the building and walking the floor plan and understanding a little bit about the lay of the land. So I'm not certain that we will have a freshman orientation, but we're working on some ideas. We will keep you posted on that. How will proper mask wearing be enforced? With a very stern voice. And it's pretty clear. The guidelines from the state say to come back, you have to wear a mask. The rule of Ledyard High School, the rule of Ledyard Public Schools minus pre-K is you have to wear a mask. If you're not willing, you're able, but you're not willing to wear a mask at Ledyard High School, then you need to learn from home. That's pretty much the bottom line. So yeah, I mean, we're going to call kids on it. We're going to call adults on it. We're going to make contact with home. We're going to tell folks maybe you need to stay home until you can either decide to wear a mask correctly or until the need to wear a mask is over. It's not, I mean, they're hot and sweaty. I get it. It makes me hot and sweaty as well. But we're going to wear them because we respect each other. If a student chooses to study remotely, will Chromebooks be provided? 100%, yes. In fact, every student, this is the first year, the roll-up has reached all of our students. So this is the first year that all of our students grades 9 through 12 will all have Chromebooks. So our plan would be to try to get those right into students' hands right in those first 4 days of school. If something changes drastically at the state level and they say, oh my gosh, everyone needs to open virtually, you can't open in person, then obviously we'll be rolling out Chromebooks in a different way and doing a distribution here, that last week of August to get Chromebooks in people's hands. But yes, every student at Ledyard High School will have a Chromebook this year, including students who are enrolled at Ledyard High School but who have temporarily opted to learn at home. You will also get a Chromebook. And you can work with us individually to figure out how we get that to you, if that's the situation you're in. Will ag students still be working with animals? They will. The plan at this point in time, and I would love to let Mrs. O'Keefe and Mrs. Manzi Smith speak more about that if you want to email them directly. But tentatively, they've been discussing the idea of assigning specific groups of students to specific animals. So you wouldn't necessarily work with like 6 different animals this week. Maybe this week your job is with alpacas and you're with alpacas the whole week and only alpacas. So you're touching the harnesses, the feed buckets, the watering bins, the alpacas themselves. And maybe next week we rotate and now you're with the sheep. So yes, they'll still definitely be working with the animals, but it will look a little different. If kids are going to be dismissed, oh yes, gosh, good job, Kim Hope. Sorry, that's a great question. If kids are going to be dismissed early on a day that is hot, how soon will parents be notified? So they won't be dismissed early, theoretically. The way the plan is written, so Ledyard High School and Juliet Long are the only 2 schools in the district that do not have air conditioning. We have pockets of air conditioning here and there, but not a lot. The way our district plan is written is that Mr. Hartling would make the call the day before, based upon the real feel forecast for the following day. So that integrates both humidity and temperature. I believe the threshold right now is 88. Yes, it's at 88 degrees. That's what the real feel would need to be for school to be canceled. So it wouldn't be like we come to school and we're waiting and checking thermometers and weather apps like it's 88 in my room. That it won't be like that. It would be that Tuesday night he would say tomorrow's real feel looks terrible. We will all be learning. High school and Juliet Long will learn from home on Wednesday. So it would be a day before piece rather than a dismissal, precisely for probably the fear that caused you to write that, which is it puts parents in such a tizzy of trying to get home and be there for kids. So astoundingly, I feel like I'm at the end of questions. I'm just gonna like do a little dance and give you like a last minute if anybody wants to type or if somebody is typing right this minute. I'm grateful. 55 people, a few people have already left. I'm so boring, sorry. Mr. Turner said we were up to 66 at a point, plus my folks out here in the library. So that's great. I really appreciate the engagement, absolutely. You're welcome, Mrs. Granger, for the hard work. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate the support that you've given to us. Obviously we're working hard. We're trying not to leave any stone unturned to make sure that we can create as safe a setting, as educational a setting as we can for your kiddos. Lots of thank yous. You're so welcome. Thank you all for coming. So again, I will post all, yeah, I see it. Yep. I will post this on the website probably tomorrow by the time I get my act together. Oh man, a blast. Okay, a flurry. Will students have their temperature checked once arriving at school? No, there is no current plan at Ledyard Public Schools to do temperature checks. Mr. Hartling and Mrs. Hogston, our assistant superintendent, have been working with our VNA, Visiting Nurses Association, about a potential self-check that folks, again, it's an honor system. It's a civic responsibility that parents are doing a self-check before sending kiddos off to school, but we won't be doing temperature checks here. Protocol if students test positive. So that's a great question. And the magical answers to that are going to be coming soon here. If we have a student who is feeling ill with symptoms commonly associated with COVID-19, we have a designated quarantine location, one of the examining rooms, isolation rooms in our nurse's office, and it's associated single occupancy restroom. So those two, that exam room and that restroom, will be designated specifically for only containment of folks who seem ill with the symptoms of COVID. in terms of do we notify the whole population, I feel like this is the lice conversation all over again. I don't know yet. I think this plan, the state that they're finally dipping their toes into will give us some guidance on that, because it may well drive whether we're allowed to come back to school even. So, so to be determined. With flu season approaching, will students be required to stay home? If they're showing symptoms of the flu, for sure. If they have a temperature over 100, for sure. Will the flu trigger us to go into on or virtual learning? I don't think so at this time. I think that would only be in response to rising COVID numbers. Yes. Great question. The question was, how would we practice social distancing on the school bus? So the guidance from the state says that right now, so in a period of low concern because of the numbers in New London County, that we can run near normal buses. The students will have to wear masks on the bus. The driver will wear a mask on the bus. They will load from the back to the front, and they will evacuate or unload from the front to the back. So no one's passing each other on the bus. Everyone sits and faces forward, and housemates sit together. They do have a protocol for should we have to go to a higher alert. There is a protocol for social distancing on the buses, which is household members sit together, and then the next student sits diagonally behind them, you know, like in the across, but 2 seats over, across, but two. So yes, but that we're starting with near normal is the language, near normal capacity on the buses. Yeah. If the numbers go up and they want to dial that back, they can do spacing on the buses, but obviously then we need more buses. So that's tricky too. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're also very welcome. Yes. Good question. So the question was, can we have an agreement that says families will not travel to hot states once the school year begins, or will you agree to quarantine when you get back? Again, not my decision to make, but that is actually part of this Harvard plan, does talk about that. So if the state is modeling theirs off of the Harvard plan, then I think there may well be an expectation associated that if you do, because listen, you know, tragedies happen, weddings happen, things happen that you have to travel for, but then there's again, sort of a social contract that maybe you owe it to, you're going to learn from home for 2 weeks to make sure everyone's clear and then come back. Particularly because we'll have that in place already. It doesn't really seem like a catastrophic ask to just stay home if you have to travel. Yeah, so that's interesting. Another from the audience here, isn't that a mandate already from the state? Yes, yes, it is. There are many mandates, and I am not poking fun at you at all. I'm poking fun at the state. There are many mandates about limitations on, you know, space and occupancy and openings, and the irony is not lost on any of us building administrators who are allowed to have live forums, but only for 25 people. But we're going to bring 800 kids back into the building. So yes, there absolutely is. My husband's in Florida right now, and he is meant to quarantine for 2 weeks when he returns. And my children cannot go to their sports or activities for 2 weeks when he returns. You know, that's meant to be a real thing in the state. Whether folks are following it, I don't know. Yes. So it depends. If we're on a full opening, the question was how many students will be in the classroom right now. So if we're in a full opening, it's just going to be whatever a normal roster is that gets spit out of Power School. So you might see a math class that has 12 kids in it because that just happens to be where the schedule falls. But you might have a math class with 24 kids in it. Obviously, we're going to maximize. We're trying to remove extra furniture items. You know, we're hoarders. We admit it. We love our extra bookshelves and cubbies. And oh, look at this junky table. I'll take that. We're trying to pull that stuff out and put it in storage so you have a larger footprint to spread your desks out. But you could absolutely have a class of, of 24 kids. And then when you're talking about like a PE class or a music class, an ensemble class, those are very large. Now, PEs and music ensembles are in very large spaces as well, so we have more of an ability to spread kids out. But you could certainly see a class of 24 in almost any content area, other than those ones I mentioned that we really lowered the cap because it's impossible for us to social distance in there. Another thing I should have mentioned is these little trifold plastic divider things that we ordered. Those are for the art rooms and for all of the science labs, because I can't move the tables. They're literally built into the ground in the science labs. So each student will have this trifold plastic thing. I'm sure my arm gestures are really helping you understand it. But they can go on their workspace. So it creates kind of this little private workspace if they need to be too close to someone because it's a lab table. So certainly you're not going to be 6 feet apart. If there's 2 people sitting at a lab table, they're not 6 feet apart. So giving them that the plastic shield, now you have maybe say 3 or 4 feet plus 2 plastic shields plus 2 masks. So that helps hopefully with the distancing. Again, if we went to the hybrid, then you'd have half as many. So, that math class of 24 now looks like a math class of 12, no big thing. Everybody's got plenty of space. Yep, and same thing with buses. Now we had a bus that was carrying 55 kids is now carrying, 24 kids. Looks great. So yeah. Okay. Oh, I see. Yep, twins. Okay. I mean, again, I don't know the answer, Mrs. Hope. The question is about if one kid becomes positive and you notify the school, will the other kid have to come out for 2 weeks? I don't know. I mean, I would guess the answer is probably going to be yes, that they would want you to quarantine your household. But please know that's me guessing. I'm hypothesizing. We don't have that clear of guidance just yet. If it's a full roster, how can we ensure social distancing? Great question, Sally Furman. Again, the plan says that we have to maximize distance between students as possible. So that's exactly what we're doing. We're maximizing distance between students. In some of those alternative settings, we're using the plastic shields. Again, everyone is wearing a mask. Everyone's facing in the same direction. We're minimizing, eliminating really, collaborative work, group work, lab partners. So, doing the best that we can do, certainly for social distancing to the maximum extent possible. Samantha B, will the absence policy be more lenient to keep kids home if they aren't feeling well? So I don't know that we would change the wording of the absence policy, but we've always been, Mr. Turner is really good at working with families around the reason and documentation for absences. So, of course, these are very strange times. And so if, you're erring on the side of caution because your kid seems a little sniffly, maybe a little feverish, and you're concerned that could be COVID, absolutely. You let us know and we're going to work with you on that. Yep, for sure. I mean, not if you're absent like 100 times, but within reason, yes, we're definitely going to work with you on that. All right. Oh, yeah, sorry. Great question. The question was about parking and sort of like what's the process for parking. So they certainly can. So we have an application for a parking permit. The student has to provide us with a copy of their license, obviously, a copy of the registration of the vehicle, the plate number and all of that. And the fee is $25. Sometimes we get oh my gosh, how can you charge us $25? $25 covers the parking passes, the painting of the lines, the signage. Sometimes we need to use a staff member down there for supervision that covers all of those pieces. So can you do it ahead of time? Absolutely. In fact, usually in our summer mailing, we send the parking pass to the senior parents anyway. It goes in the summer mailing, so you have it. I think it's on the website. Yep. Yeah. Yes, Mr. Bunicor is saying we'll give you a few weeks for sure. So typically what happens is it's a free for all for the first couple of weeks. Everybody drives. We urge them, get your passes, get your passes, get your passes. They eventually do get their passes in, and we designate a date. It's actually in the student handbook too, that by whatever, September 19th, September 14th, everybody must have a parking pass. And it isn't that that's the end of us giving out parking passes, because we'll have kids that get their license in December and February and, you know, April, and they want to apply and get a pass. In which case, Mr. Unifor often will, you prorate, you're nice, right? He prorates if you're somebody who's getting your license in like May, you know. But yeah, so it's not the end of parking passes necessarily, unless it's literally the end because we ran out. There's 165, maybe. I might have made that up, but there's a decent number of spots down there. I'm not sure if you were hearing Mr. Bunicor was talking about just the pass process, and that it's fine. Encourage your kids to come in. We'll work with you. We've not had a problem in recent years with getting a pass for everybody who wanted a pass. That was pretty much it. That was the Cliff Notes version. All right, so I want to be respectful of time. Thank you so much. It's 6:18. We did better than Mr. Hartling. It took him 2 hours last night. So good job to everyone. Thank you for coming. Tell your friends. It's going to be posted on the website tomorrow. If there's folks who couldn't make it, they can see it tomorrow. There'll certainly be tons more communication coming to you from us now. We'll be ramping up here as we come into August. The usual summer mailing will come. You should still be looking for schedules, not super soon, but schedules will be coming. Information about freshman orientation, all of those pieces. So stay tuned to a theater near you. And please don't hesitate. If you have questions, there's no silly questions. There's no stupid questions. afagan@ledger.net. Email me. I'll get back to you. Sometimes I'm a little slow, but I'm not ignoring you. I will respond. And that's pretty much it. So thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And be safe. Keep wearing those masks. And we'll talk with you soon. Bye, all. How do I unrecord? Let's see. Stop recording. Got it.